I want to make sure you had my email there too, because I have some different resources I can send you if you're interested later on. So you just have to request it from the email. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about how to strengthen your nervous system, and a strengthened nervous system is a balanced nervous system. So we're going to talk about it also too, how this relates to inflammation in the body, how it relates to your sleep, how it relates to your immune system, how it relates to, most importantly, the healing and the repair that goes on in your body, because we want to be in a state of our nervous system that it can heal and repair, and it can adapt. You know, the biggest job of your nervous system is to adapt to changes in the environment. So let's get started on this, because a little bit of housekeeping here is we just had a birthday, and that birthday was birthday Chiropractic. And if you're in the office the past couple afternoons, you may have noticed we had some cupcakes out. And the purpose of that is we wanted to celebrate the birthday Chiropractic. It was the date of the first recorded chiropractic adjustment back in 1895, and really that's when it first became a profession. Now adjustments have been around for thousands of years, different cultures. This is sculpting back from ancient Greece, and the Egyptians have hieroglyphics showing adjustments, and even in ancient Asian cultures, you can actually find still thousands of years old different markings there of doing adjustments. So adjustments are not new, but it became a profession that was organized and compliant in 1895. Okay, so let's talk more about what we want to talk about, but I thought we just had the birthday, I would mention it. Okay, so nervous system. When we look at a cross section of a nerve, there's three components to that nerve. Three different, components to the nervous system. So we have the sensory part. The sensory nerves are the smallest set of nerves in the nervous system. In terms of actually the pain fibers itself, the pain fibers make only 8.7% of the nerve. The rest is everything else. So most people think of the pain fibers are, what the majority of it, very small percent, not even 10%, less than that. But in sensory as well too, you have hot and cold. You have positional, like where sometimes they're called proprioceptive, like where are you in 3 dimensions, even if your eyes are closed. Your posture, like your positioning in your body. So that is all the sensory. Motor nerves are the middle set, not the largest set, but in between. And motor nerves are what controls the muscles, what moves the body around. So if we have problems with that set or pressure on that part of the nerve, sometimes we can see things like spasms or weakness or muscle fatigue or tightness. A lot of times tightness is if there's, for example, if there's a subluxation present, something's out of place, the body senses that there's danger present, or it needs to go in a self-protective mode. Protective mode is for the muscles to tighten up. So sometimes my muscles, tight muscles are a sign of something is not quite right in the body, or something's not in the right alignment. Autonomic nerves, that's the biggest set. And that's more the set what we're going to be talking about today. So these are the ones that control a lot of the different functions in your body. It controls, the blood vessels dilated or constricted. It controls the different organs, how they're working and functioning. It controls the different glands. Are things being secreted that's supposed to or not, and at the right levels? So it's very important that set is working properly for really your body to operate correctly. So things like if there's stress on the autonomic nervous system, we'll see things like sinus and allergy problems. We can see like low energy, just fatigue. That's whole body fatigue, not just like muscle fatigue. Digestive problems, breathing issues, either reduced or high heart rate. So these are some things that you'll see as we go on here. But I want to get it said that mainly today we're going to be talking mainly about balancing that autonomic nervous system. So this is the autonomic nervous system. This is a little complex, but I want to get you an idea of this, so we're not looking at everything here. Two components, main components of the autonomic nervous system. There's a sympathetic, which is delineated in yellow, and there's a parasympathetic, which is delineated in green. So I want you to get an idea that most parts of the body are controlled by both of these sets. For example, if you look at the large intestine there, you notice there's some green nerves going into it, and you notice there's some yellow nerves going from it. The yellow nerves come from the lower lumbar spine, also too, a little higher up, lower thoracic spine as well too. And the green set of nerves, there's a set that actually from the sacral area, which is lower than the low back, and then also to a nerve that winds all the way back up to right to the top of C1 there. And that's the vagus nerve. We will be talking about that today. Vagus is Latin for wandering. So it's a separate set of nerves that is involved in regulation. Now, so we want things in balance, because if the large intestine is getting more sympathetic nervous system information than parasympathetic, sympathetic would actually slow that down. So if you have more sympathetic than parasympathetic, you're going to be constipated. If you have more parasympathetic information going out, more parasympathetic information going in than sympathetic, then it's going to be more diarrhea. So it's going to be, you want the right level of everything. So for example, like we see a set of nerves there for the sinuses up higher, similar type of thing. Okay. So if we have a right balance of those nerves, then the sinus mucous membranes work correctly. If we have off balance, we actually have too much parasympathetic to it. Actually, the mucous membranes can actually swell and secrete more mucus. If we have too much sympathetic, then it actually dries out. So we want to have the right levels, but I want to give you an idea, like most of these systems are controlled by both. So we want to have the right amount, a balanced amount all the time. Okay. So this more further delineate that sympathetic and parasympathetic. I really kind of hate the term that fight and flight and rest and digest, because that's really an oversimplification of things. But I want to kind of get the idea that, okay, so sympathetic, heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, there's more hormone production there, more stress hormone production, and digestion, we have decreased digestive ability. Parasympathetic, that's an important part, because that's where the repair goes on the body. If you're stuck in sympathetic nervous system, your body can't repair. That's the main thing I want you to get from that. Also too, if your body's stuck in sympathetic nervous system, you're going to have high blood pressure. Also, sleep is controlled here too. So you can't sleep if you're stuck in sympathetic nervous system. You're actually sleeping with, that's a stress state. So it's always, you're sleeping with one eye open. So you can't get into the deeper sleep modes as well too. So anyway, sympathetic is, neither one is good or bad. You just want to have you want to have the right amounts. So kind of like sympathetic to the body as general is like stepping on the gas pedal. Parasympathetic is like stepping on the brake. So again, neither one's good or bad. You need, in your car, you do need the accelerator, but if it's you're doing accelerating all the time, yeah, you need a brake too. So you don't want to, but you can't have both your feet on the pedals at the same time, because that wouldn't get you anywhere good. So, and here's kind of the tricky part, because overall in the body state, you can't be in sympathetic and parasympathetic at the same time. There's a state where your mode is in. And so it's either going to be in parasympathetic mode or it's going to be in sympathetic mode. And it has kind of some examples here, like, hey, the snake is there. So the guy jumps up, he's escaping the scenario. So he's in sympathetic mode. And then like, there's a guy resting, relaxing, he's in parasympathetic mode. So, and there's Dr. Bruce Lipton here. He's one of my favorite scientists. He's actually was one of the fathers of stem cell research back in the 70s. and then he got into epigenetic research. He's a PhD, worked at several different medical universities. But the statement is really true. You can't be in growth and protection at the same time. So what that means really is, in the sympathetic mode, your body can't heal and repair, really. So you can't be trying to protect the body. In survival mode, actually, a good term for a sympathetic term is survival mode. So sympathetic is just, you're focusing on survival. It's not long-term health and wellness. It's survival, and your body can't heal and repair in that. So it's important to get our bodies back into sympathetic. Most people nowadays, well, in our society now, a lot of people are stuck in sympathetic mode. These are people that, I kind of mentioned some things earlier that I was like, okay, keys to that. Okay, insomnia is a good sign that you may be stuck in sympathetic mode. High alert, like if you hear like a siren going down the street, and you feel your system get revved up, and it can stays revved up for a little while. Or hey, a fire alarm goes off in the morning, and you're like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to sleep now at all at night. That tells you, gives you an idea that, hey, your system's stuck in sympathetic mode. Usually you can identify someone that's stuck in sympathetic mode by how they breathe. Their breathing patterns, like they breathe short breaths, fast, and you'll see their neck muscles contract a lot too when they're breathing. That's a good sign. So how things should work is, we should just easily move up in the sympathetic mode when there's a stressor there, and decrease and discharge and go back in the sympathetic mode, and it should be just easy changes. Now, some people can really get not necessarily stuck in sympathetic mode, but they can be just stuck in a dysfunctional nervous system where, they have a traumatic event, they shoot into sympathetic, and then they drop down into far parasympathetic, and they shoot back and forth. It's like they're never on the fairway. They're always in the rough, so they shoot forward and back. So like they don't stay in that mid zone. So that's where we want to be. Okay. So the vagus nerve, which I alluded to before, there's a lot of talk about that right now. And because it's a new thing, it's only been kind of popular in the research for the past several years, but and even just in, I say, modern culture, modern health forms, it's only been popular for the past few. Vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So especially this is very useful for people that are stuck in sympathetic overdrive, which now is especially now with other stresses like around, like, hey, with all the stress with COVID-19, and like, how do we get around doing things, and travel, there's extra stresses on travel and that, so hey, we're seeing more and more people being stuck in sympathetic mode. So the vagus nerve is actually one of the ways that you can use to stimulate things. So actually you can get more into the parasympathetic state. So it actually has, if you stimulate the sympathetic nerve or put yourself body more in a parasympathetic state, it actually has effect on inflammation. You actually have decreased inflammation in the body. It has great effects on the heart. The digestive system works better. Insulin and blood sugar works better. We have lower blood pressure because the blood vessel tone is better. We see less anxiety and depression too, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. I'm going to actually get more detail on that in a few minutes anyway, because I found a really cool study on that just from last year. Okay, so I found this slide really funny. I don't want you to read it because this is a slide, on how to help anxiety through stimulating the parasympathetic nerve. And I looked at this as like, this is the most stress-inducing slide I've ever seen in my life. Like just the bright colors on it and just like the crazy writing. And I was like, this is actually, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is actually stressing me out. I'm having the opposite effect on this than what I should have. So I gotta get off that slide because anyway, so this is one of the challenges with like Zoom. Someone finds I was looking at it, I was finding it funny, but I can't see what you're experiencing at home. So I don't know. That's one of the more challenges with Zoom as opposed to being in person. Anyway, this is a quote from John Hopkins, and I thought this was very related to this topic. The typical American goes through more physical, chemical, and emotional stress in 30 days than their grandparents did in their entire lifetime. So 2 components of this. Yeah, younger people are going through a lot more stress. There's a lot more different things affecting us lifestyle-wise. Also, to delineate, hey, there's 3 types of stress. Most people think stress is just an emotional thing. There's chemical stress, there's physical stress. Chemical stress can be 2 ways. It could be your body not getting something it needs, or your body getting something that it doesn't want. Either way, it's a stress on the body. Physical, there's physical stressors, so as well too. So I'm not going to have time to get into all of these because I want to make sure I'm done in a timely rate here. And there's a lot of other things I want to get to, but I thought, hey, this is important. This is why we're seeing more of this nowadays. And reasons that we'll see this, obviously stress is a big one. Childhood traumas can actually cause the parasympathetic nervous system not to work as well. Head injuries, poor breathing. It's amazing when there's a stress workshop I do where I talk about like breathing, and I go into different facilities and that to do it. Sometimes I go into like senior places, senior homes and that, and it's like amazing how poor the breathing mechanics of people are. Like even a lot of people just don't breathe with their full lung capacity, or know even how to do that. So we'll get that a little more later. And just blood sugar imbalances play a role in this. Toxic loads, we talked about chemical toxicity. So things you can do, and this is more the important part. These are different things this is more specific for the vagus nerve. A lot of things that you can do here anytime, because the vagus nerve actually attaches to the vocal cords. Anything you can do to really stimulate the vocal cords in a rhythmic manner helps. So singing, humming, chanting, any of those can be great. Laughing as like regularly, like giggling or laughing, that actually helps too. Gargling is another one as well. Because the stimulation of the vagus nerve to the vocal cords. Gargling is great. Deep breathing, and we can go more into breathing in a little bit. Exercise, this again, that gets your the breathing going as well too. It actually stimulates. Now, when we want to breathe, deep breathing, it actually has to be through the diaphragmatic breathing. Cold can help. Now, cold can actually be, cold shower, and it doesn't have to be long. 15 seconds is enough long enough. So at the end of the shower, put in your shower, turn the hot water off, get in the cold shower, 15 seconds, that could be it. There's some people I've seen where, for example, like Tony Robbins, I know at his place, he actually has he has a hot tub, and like a couple feet over, he has like an ice bathtub, and he'll go from one into the other, really to stimulate the vagus nerve. Also, too cold exposure, putting an ice pack on either the neck or neck kind of works. I found was worked best. Other people are going to have often noticed putting it more higher on the forehead as well. Yoga, great. Meditation, just even in the state of gratefulness. Marking down, writing down, spending 5-10 minutes and just thinking, what am I grateful for in my life? And that actually stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system to think inwardly like that, and actually be, because you're not in survival mode then. You're thinking like, hey, what are the positive things in my life? Okay. So this is a study that I found I thought was really interesting. And this is actually from where I got this. I got from the National Institute of Health. And this was a study from 2020. I guess it came out in November of 2020. So it's not even a year old, and it was done in Italy. And this is the neurological basis of chiropractic manipulative therapy of the spine in care of major depression. So I'm going to go down here into the abstract, and you'll see why this relates here. So I'm going to pan down a little bit. Okay. Major depressive disorder is associated with an autonomic nervous system imbalance. Oh, so it actually already talks about, and this was actually from a medical school. This wasn't even from a chiropractic college or anything like this. But they're kind of identifying right away. Major depressive disorder is with autonomic nervous system imbalance. All the symptoms of depression, so high cortisol, high adrenaline, insomnia, agitation, anxiety, can probably be attributed to overactivation of the sympathetic nervous system. So, hey, we kind of know what causes depression now. It's not necessarily, we've been told for years, it's a chemical imbalance. It's chemical imbalance. Well, it seems to me it's actually a sympathetic parasympathetic imbalance. So let's go down to results here. Chiropractic care and spinal manipulation regulate the autonomic nervous system at peripheral level and its projections to the central nervous system. And I'm going to show you the mechanics of this in a little bit. So don't worry about this. In particular, they may activate the parasympathetic nervous system to counterbalance the effect of the sympathetic system. So when you get adjusted, it throws your body into the parasympathetic state. Vagal parasympathetic stimulation is also considered an effective therapy for major depression. And okay, it goes on in more detail there. So, whoops. Let me go back here. Oh, went a little too far. Don't mind me. There we go. Conclusion. Chiropractic and spinal manipulative therapies, along with vagal nerve stimulation, may therefore be regarded as treatment options for depression. And this is big because what does that really mean? Like in the US, you actually only have 2 recognized therapies for depression, and that's medication and electric shock therapy. So anyway, this was an American study, but this would be good as we could see this as a treatment option or something at least to use concurrently. When you get adjusted, it affects the area of the brain that gets affected through adjustments. Most affected is called the prefrontal cortex. And there's different studies that actually show after adjustment, you get more blood flow, 30% more blood flow to that area of the brain, carries more oxygen, and stimulates also to that area to work better. It also, in general, to the brain, it actually allows more synapses to be created and stimulates growth of new neurons. But main area I just want to show is the prefrontal cortex is the main area of the brain that gets affected with an adjustment. Because a lot of people think, and hey, you're adjusting my low back. How is that affecting my brain? People can't put that together, but actually it neurologically, other things can actually happen above C1, Okay. So I apologize for the clarity of the slide. It's not the most clear, but this gives you an idea. So you get adjusted. Okay. Chiropractic adjustments increase oxygen and alter processing in this area of the brain. So it affects the prefrontal cortex here. Prefrontal cortex, also to what the prefrontal cortex is involved in. It's involved in a lot of, I want to go back for a second here because I want to talk about something. There was a study done, it was about 20 years ago, and it was done on 6th grade students. And they took 366 grade students and they divide them up into 2 groups. And first off, they gave them all an IQ test. And then what they did is they divide them up in approximately half. And half of them, they got adjusted twice a week for a month. And the other half, there was a control group, they didn't do anything. And then at the end of the study, a month later, they gave them all an IQ test again. On average, the control group didn't have any changes at all. On average, the chiropractic group scored 10 points higher on their IQ test than what they did previously. So right away, it was we're kind of thinking okay, well, it does have an effect on the brain, but we don't know what. And right away, I was like, okay, we don't really know the mechanism of this, but actually, I don't really, I knew right away, I was like, I don't think it makes people smarter, but it made people when they're doing those tests that they were more, they were making the better choices, making their thinking was clearer, not necessarily had greater intelligence. So, and that was the kind of thing, and even in chiropractic college, that right before an exam, hey, we'd be adjusting each other in the hallway, and that we thought, okay, we don't know how this works, but we know that, hey, we think better when we actually are after we get adjusted. So, prefrontal cortex is really involved in a lot of decision making, especially when there's consequences involved. Hey, if I do this, hey, this consequence can be involved here. Also too, why this is important, like when kids are doing a lot of screen time, this is the area of the brain that gets bypassed. So this is a very important area. And this, one of the concerns of different neurologists that are coming out is like, well, kids with all these screen time, hey, they may not be able to make good, wise decisions down the road with all the screen time that they're getting, because that area of the brain does not get stimulated. Okay, so this area of your brain gets stimulated with an adjustment. This area of the brain then also what does, and this guy I relate to the conversation we're having today, stimulates the amygdala. And the amygdala, it's the stimulate, it inhibits the amygdala. Amygdala actually processes information like fear and sadness. And when I say fear, this is kind of like the petrifying fear, deep sorrow, sadness. So it inhibits that. And then actually that decreased amygdala response works on the hypothalamus, and then in turn, what it does, it increases the parasympathetic activity. So how in scientific studies, how it's really measured, like whether someone's in parasympathetic, actually how well the functioning parasympathetic is by heart rate variability. So that's actually how does the heart respond to different stresses and that. So better that it can adapt to different stresses, the better that the parasympathetic system is working here. So I want to give you an idea of, okay, this actually all works together. So I want to show this because this is actually a study from a few years ago. And this gives you an idea how new this is, because this is a study from 2005. At 2005, they didn't, they knew here this is mental stress and sudden cardiac death, asymmetric midbrain activity and as a linking mechanism. So, so here what they knew is actually stress can cause, heart attacks. Actually, if you look at when did most heart attacks occur in people, Monday morning. When did most people are most stressed? Monday morning. So, so this actually was, it didn't know the mechanics. Now we know it, what it is. Like I said, this whole thing with the vagus and the sympathetic and parasympathetic and how they work differently. This is new stuff. Like this has only been for the past 5 years that's really gone out there, and we're actually really seeing how this works. So, good. So I want a couple of things I want to kind of, I guess a couple of different resources I have for you is. One is I have for you, this is actually something I got from a Dr. Eva Detkos, who's a PhD, and it was a 4-week program to strengthen your vagus nerve system and vagus nerve and boost your immune system. And it's a booklet, it's like 30 pages. I am free to give that out to people. So if you want to get this booklet, just send me an email and I can email it to you. It comes as a PDF form. It's an ebook. It's pretty good. It actually, one thing I like about it is at the end, towards the end, it actually gives you gives you a lot more different things of actually how to stimulate the vagus nerve, but how to build a program for a month long doing things that you like to do. And for example, on this page right here, it kind of gives you like a whole suggested, okay, this is what I'm going to do each day. On Monday, I'm going to do this. On Tuesday, I'm going to do this. And these things do not have to take long. You just need to have a strategy for it. So it talks about how to build that strategy. The one thing I don't like about it is it doesn't talk about chiropractic. That's the only thing it's missing there. But other than that, you guys are getting the chiropractic anyway. Other than that, there's good information in there. Other thing I have is if you're more having anxiety issues and you anxiety or depression issues, I have a couple good videos from someone that works in this area who goes through some slow centering exercises and actually goes through different exercises. It's kind of like a combination of yoga and stretching to stimulate the vagus nerve. And she kind of talks about how you're doing this, like we're putting your body more in a parasympathetic state so we can decrease anxiety. So if you wanted me to kind of give you the links to those videos, I can do that for you too. Just send me your email. And again, my email is drdaryl@mccormickchiro.com. Also too, hey, please send me if you're interested, send me a any comments about this. Like, did you like this talk? This is hopefully a little different, or maybe something that you maybe haven't heard about, or maybe you were just hearing about, and this kind of gives you a little bit more, more deeper info into it. And I know this was more of an introductory. We were just kind of scratching the surface on things, but I hope that gives you a, hey, like, hey, this is some other things that we can, we can do to actually help our, help our health. And of course, the biggest thing that we always want to look at, biggest thing I'm always looking at for my patients is that I want to make sure that your body is in the best healing state possible. That's always my goal, because your body, our body's in a state of healing and state of repair. We want to make sure that repair is always more than more than the breakdown going on in the body. So, okay. So I hope that was useful for you. Yeah. Let me know what you think. And I think in a month from now, I'm going to be doing a talk on the healthy medicine cabinet. So I'm going to be bringing like my medicine cabinet at home looks very different than the typical American. So I'm going to show you some things that I have in my medicine cabinet, different alternatives that I use for common products that people have. So there's not gonna be a whole lot of slides for that. It's gonna be more, hey, I'm gonna be showing you what I'm using and why I use it, and what are the advantages of that versus what most people commonly use. So good. I hope that was useful for you. And hey, thank you for being here. Thank you for using some of your Tuesday night to be here. I appreciate you giving me this time, and hopefully if you found some useful things that you learned from tonight. So have a good night.